All right, so of course we do this webinar the first Wednesday of every month. Our next show and tell will be on Wednesday, November 2nd, our second to last one of the year. Hard to believe. If this is your first time joining a show and tell, please allow us just a minute to describe what it is. It's a chance for some of our global team to come together for just an hour or so to share what's currently inspiring us, what's in our personal zeitgeist. Often a lot of things that we share in these meetings actually are catalysts for things that go on to become macro trends or design aesthetics. It's just a chance for us to kind of start with some pattern recognition of things that are happening in culture. It's a chance for you to just sit back for an hour from your typical task of the day and just enjoy things that are inspiring us and that we love currently. So before we jump into today's links, just a couple of housekeeping things. Of course, we are going to share today's presentation. We will follow up with you via email later this week with not only a recording of today, but also a document with all of the links. So don't feel that you need to follow along and write down the links today. We will share all of those with you. As always, this month's show and tell, along with all of our show and tells, are available on our YouTube channel, as well as under the webcast part of our website if you are a subscriber. We love hearing from you during today's webinar, so please let us know what you're loving, questions you have by using the chat box. Just make sure that you please do choose the pull down for everyone so that both our team and everyone that's attending the webinar can see your comment. And one thing that we're very much excited about is next Wednesday, October 12th, please join us for our Spring Summer 23 Women's Runway Fashion Week Insights. This is a chance for you to jump on with our women's team as they go through a live recap of key insights from our most recent fashion weeks in Paris, Milan, London, and New York. So you can sign up by going to fashionsnoops.com/events. Again, that's next Wednesday, October 12th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a great time so that everyone, including our friends in Europe, can join. All right, give me just a second. I'm gonna pop down and get our links. So I think starting off the October webinar is Mallory from our beauty team. Hi, Mallory, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
It's a little gloomy and rainy here today, but I'm trying to embrace the spectacular spooky season vibes. In
So you.
keeping with that, yes, it's dreadful, but I'm trying to unleash my inner witch. Um, but so it actually very apropos of that. So I decided to do a roundup today for my first link of Beauty and Wellness does a roundup of all the Halloween launches every year, and we're currently compiling the report, and there's so much fun newness, and I thought I'd highlight some of these launches and just kind of what we're seeing in these launches that aligns with a higher trend perspective. It's funny because when I hopped on this call, so the team was talking about the latest Hocus Pocus 2 launch, and I'm starting off with Colourpops Hocus Pocus 2 collection. They previously did just a regular collection, I think last year, perhaps the year before, based on the original Hocus Pocus, with, of course, the debut of the sequel on Disney Plus recently. It's just been bubbling back to the surface like a delicious witch's brew. And so this is a really fun makeup collection. And what we're highlighting in this is, of course, just tapping into that continual steam train of nostalgia that we're seeing just blaze a trail through beauty and wellness. There isn't a cartoon or nostalgic point from the 80s, 90s, and early aughts that has not been mined by the beauty industry at this point. But it is really fun. They really got into the immersion, which I think is what makes it really rewarding and fun for the consumer. The shades are all character themed. The packaging is super thematic. They're really fun accessories like cat ear clips that are functional to keep your hair back when you're doing your makeup, but also can be used as part of a Halloween costume as well. And so definitely the theming and the packaging makes it both a collector's item and also a fun novelty palette to use in October. So if you want to go to the next slide. So the next one, of course, Lush has a huge Halloween collection every year. We love this one because these are really novelty shapes that evoke this sensorial delight. Of course, they're bath bombs with all the fizzing textures and effects, offer some age-inclusive enjoyment. Since they're just bath and body products, children can enjoy them. The whole family can enjoy these products. They're sensorial, they smell good, they're fun. Also, of course, there's annual anticipation for this launch every year. They do a Christmas one as well, and every year consumers are trying to see, what fun shapes and what limited edition bath bombs will be released. And there's also quite a sense of humor about these launches as well that keeps it very lighthearted. It's kind of silly, spooky, scary, and doesn't take itself too seriously. We also love this Profusion Cosmetics Rituals collection, and we really see this tapping into the conversations we're tracking on a macro level about shadow work, spirituality, and kind of taboo occult topics. We find this packaging for both the eyeshadows, and also they package some of the eyelashes as well in these Ouija board inspired palettes, which is a very interesting shape. Really tapping into like that dark side of rituals. And also we have these products like face stamps and stamp on face gems that make Halloween looks easier, really trying to make, more professional side of kind of effects focused beauty more accessible to the average consumer. And also loving the holographic effect on this matte black background, just very striking packaging. And then I think this is the last one. And so this is from Nails, and we love Dashing Diva. They always do such fun themes, and this is no exception. They've done a few Halloween themes so far, and these different themes really and colorways really allow consumers to mix and match, appealing to that personalization element that's so popular in beauty, and to create thematic manicure pedicure looks. They're easy to use, easy to remove, making nail art more accessible if you don't have a steady hand or the patience, myself, to do intricate nail art. These make it really easy, and it's really tapping into that consumer creativity. And so we're still putting together a report, but it should be live, of course, before Halloween. So look for more spooktacular launches in the coming weeks.
I love it. Mallory, what are you going as for Halloween?
I think I'm going as the main character from Our Flag Means Death, which is my favorite news show at the moment. So Rice Darby is the actor who plays this very colorful pirate. So
I love it.
that's what
No
I will be.
cliche costumes for you.
Yes.
Love it.
And so this is my next link that I want to add because, just like we've seen the nostalgia train just completely go nonstop through beauty, we of course have also seen the parallel force of celebrity beauty launches, specifically celebrity skincare launches. And I don't know what happened when Brad Pitt announced his skincare launch, was it last week, but the beauty industry just collectively, I think, hit critical mass. And a bunch of beauty brands came together to write an open letter to Brad Pitt, which I don't know why Brad Pitt is the source of this. I think it's just a collective, reckoning and exhaustion. But their perspective is interesting. And, I don't entirely disagree with what they're saying, which is, a celebrity skincare brands really, first of all, there's an inherent level of perhaps not deception, but there's a misleading element to most celebrity skincare brands, which is, of course, to say, well, the products might be good and they might be effective, well formulated products. The reason that most celebrities look the way they do is not because of any new product they might formulate. It's because of access to treatments and everything that could possibly be available to keep them looking as glamorous as possible. And so there is a little bit of cynicism whenever we see a celebrity skincare launch, especially when viewed with large price tags, like Kim Kardashian's new skincare launch, which has a very high price tag. And so this collective letter essentially is saying that, celebrities are kind of waltzing into skincare and making these launches and kind of essentially taking away from indie brands. I don't know if it needs to be such a give and take, but it is an interesting perspective to say that celebrities should be, investing in indie brands rather than, starting their own lines. And again, just the idea that it's very low risk for a celebrity to start a beauty line. Whereas if you're an indie skincare brand founder, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into it. And I think there's just a collective, almost, I'm not quite resentment, but hard feelings towards celebrities. So it's
Mhm.
just interesting because we keep seeing these launches, there's a new one almost every day. We have a running list at FS Beauty and Wellness of all the latest launches. And so it's just really interesting. And I think I'm seeing in chat, it's interesting why skincare has drawn the ire of so many consumers and brands. I think it's because, of course, previously celebrities have always been the face of products like makeup, color cosmetics, and fragrance. I think the inherent difference between simply, selling a scent or selling a lipstick is that skincare is different in that, it's changing the nature of your skin. It's not just a lipstick that you're applying, you can wash off. It's selling a look and a sense of health and vitality and youth that is simply just not inherent in just a thematic fragrance or a fun lipstick. And so there's an added level there that I think is adding to this conversation. But yeah, it's interesting. And of course, the sustainability aspect, as you can see on the screen, is another key thing, and that we simply don't need, this many beauty brands. So definitely give it a read. It's interesting. This L article itself is interesting, and I definitely suggest just Googling it because, it's a conversation we'll continue to have in beauty and
Yeah, and
wellness.
Mallory,
Sure.
Gabriella, who's joining us today, she chatted on the side that she also wanted to know if this kind of sentiment applies to products made by celebrities in other areas, like perhaps wine and beverage and clothing. And I think probably it is a really pertinent point for the other parts of the industry too, as well. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, for sure within food, I think there's just generally a sort of, especially as we've seen the rise of so many of these smaller indie brands, not just within beauty and wellness, but also within food, like you say, wine. Of course, we know Brad, I think, just won his recent lawsuit
Yeah.
to get his wine label back. But I think there's an inherent skepticism about celebrities who, of course, have access to every single resource that could possibly be needed to start any successful venture, be it within fashion, food, or beauty. And essentially, it's that idea of they get to skip so many steps, and because of their notoriety, they also are privy to, face recognition, name recognition, and a existing fan base, whereas other indie brand founders have to start entirely from the ground up. So I think
Right.
there's a sense of unfairness that is definitely growing with all
Right.
these celebrity launches. Although the packaging is beautiful, I have to say,
I do
it's
love the
striking and
packaging of his
beautiful.
product. I think we shared emails about it, but it is interesting for people like us to have that skepticism. Maybe we're a bit more in tune with the realities of the industry, a bit more savvy, but the reality is it's marketing. Marketing's always been around, as other people are pointing out in the chat right now. So that's nothing new, especially to the beauty industry. So it works. Obviously, or people
It
wouldn't
it
invest the money.
certainly does. Yep.
Right.
And I mean the everyone wants to follow the Kylie Jenner model for sure. So
Sure.
we'll continue to track these launches,
Yeah.
or God knows.
Great. No, no, it's a really good topic. I'm glad we brought it up. It's good for us all to think about. Thanks, Mallory. All right, we're gonna move down the line here to Nia. Hi, Nia.
Hi everyone, I'm Nia Silva, the materials director at FS. So I wanted to share something textile related. So my first link here is from the latest Paris runways, more specifically the Copernic show. And it kind of took the internet by storm. There was clips posted everywhere, all over my timeline. But if you're not familiar, the Parisian brand Copernic closed their show with a live art demonstration of sorts. So they had the model here, Bella Hadid, come out in just her underwear, and then two artisans began to spray her body with Fabricant. So interestingly, the specific company behind the technology has been around for nearly 20 years. It was developed by Dr. Manuel Torres, and his hope was to develop a futuristic, seamless, quick, comfortable material. The spray-on material is made from recycled or natural fibers. And when it's released from the compressed air spray, it dries instantly on contact with the air. So it creates this non-woven fabric that can even be applied to many surfaces. They even state they can be included to water as well. And in this case, it was applied to Bella's body. So I created this really kind of simple, but really interesting visual effect. The founder also wanted to develop Fabricant as a sustainable future solution with a smaller footprint, since it's a material all-in-one. It collapses the traditional fashion supply chain. There's no need for suppliers. There's no need for all of those steps in between. So hence a lower, footprint. They also state that the material can be dissolved and decomposed. I don't know how accurate this is, since microplastic pollution has become a big topic in materials and what that's, they're getting into our waters and our food. So I don't know how accurate that is, but in general, it definitely sounds like a really interesting future alternative, and just the fact that it's a material all in one, and the uses really seem endless for it. So
Mia,
I
can
thought
I
it
ask you, as someone who's an expert in this field, what do you think the hand of the fabric is? Like, what did it feel? I mean, it looks like,
yeah.
it looked like a jersey or something. I mean, when it was all
Right.
done. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely matte. To me, it kind of reminded me of like, it had like kind of like a latexy looking
Yeah.
feel. Like it felt like it was like a little more bouncy and springy, but then the fact that it was matte, I don't know. I think it was interesting to me to see how tight it fit onto her silhouette and, her kind of core area, but then it still had that drape on the bottom and even on the little sleeves here. So
Yeah.
I guess I would imagine it's kind of like similar to like a latexy, maybe like a stretchy crepe fabric,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
But the fact that they say that the usage, they can use it on top of water, you can use it to even maybe fix garments, they said on their site, I thought was interesting. So
So
yeah,
interesting.
I
Yeah.
think
It
it's
just
super open.
seeing the way she was walking afterwards, so I was like, well, I guess it's not so delicate that they're worried it's just going
Right.
to break apart. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, so that was a cool one to see. And then my second link today is from our favorite fast food powerhouse, McDonald's. What haven't they done? But yesterday they released their newest launch in collaboration with the streetwear brand Cactus Flea Market for a line of adult Happy Meals. So they're reimagining the Happy Meal, which I read was originally released in 1979
Mhm.
for several generations of adults, maybe who may not have eaten one since being a kid. I thought it was a really cool idea. Granted, the push in mainstream media for nostalgia, like Mallory mentioned, is constantly ongoing. So this definitely taps into that. They have some tweets here. So some on social media seem all for it, and I'm sure it'll sell out. I even tried to get one yesterday and it was sold out at my local McDonald's, but others are a little bit more cynical. Like I saw a tweet even here quoting it as a powerful index of mental and moral decline in today's society. So I thought it was very
God.
dramatic, but I mean, nevertheless, we know they're going to come out with these kind of like cheeky ways to kind of push product that's been around forever. But I just thought it was cute. It comes with a toy, of course, so you're not missing
It's
out
kind
on
of
the
an
toy.
old school toy, which was,
Right.
it was like kind of anti-hip when it came to the toy, which I actually found rather hip. So
Right. With the double eyes, so kind of like
Mhm.
taps into like
Yeah,
Cactus Flea Market's vibe. But I don't
right.
know, definitely interesting one to check out. See if you guys can grab if you can. It seems like it's sold out everywhere though.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes people just want to litigate everything. It's just chicken nuggets and a toy. I don't think
Literally.
it's all right, thanks, Nia. Good links.
Mhm.
All right, so these are my links, everyone. There's a couple things I wanted to share today that I'm really excited about. The first, couple of recent articles on Cloth Surgeon, which is a brand that I've really loved for a long time, but he's really getting a lot of his due praise now just because of what he's doing on Savile Row, which was so interesting. So if you're not familiar, the brand has been around for about 10 years, but he just recently opened up a shop on Savile Row, which of course, traditionally are all of these heritage tailored clothing brands. He is the first shop on the row to offer made to order streetwear. Also the first shop ever to be owned by a South Asian designer, which I really loved as well. But if you're not familiar, his name is Rav Matharu. He's 40 years old. Like I said, he's had the brand for 10 years, but he has such an interesting story. So he was a former soccer player. He was actually a professional soccer player for many years. He grew up in Leeds. His parents owned like a corner shop. And he has such an interesting story, but he became professional soccer player, football player in the UK. And then he left that when he was 24 years old, and he enrolled in the Leeds Arts University fashion program in 2006. He didn't know how to sew. He didn't know how to sketch. He couldn't even cut a straight line. And he was so determined that he came into the studio every morning with the cleaning staff was present, and he left only when they turned the lights off. And he really wanted to learn this mastery trade of fashion design. And so to cut precise lines, he began using a scalpel, almost like drawing on the fabric. And a friend described him like a surgeon. Thus, the name of his brand, Cloth Surgeon, was born. And so money was really tight in the beginning days, beginning years of his brand. And he really got an awesome following from clients like ASAP Rocky, so many other rappers, other football players, and he would actually have to fit them in the hallway of his London apartment. And then he showed up at a Nike event in 2014 in a suit constructed from old Nike sweatpants. And then brands like Champion, Coca-Cola, they started reaching out for collaborations. He's since collaborated with Harrods, Mr. Porter, Selfridges. So now he has his own shop. Here are some great photos the New York Times took. This is a really great Harrington jacket that he made from tiny Champion logos that were stitched together, a jacket made from Louis Vuitton branded fabric. He's really, really great at color, I find, but you can kind of see him here fitting a client for some streetwear as well. His style is great. You should definitely follow the brand on Instagram. I love how they're not afraid of color. They're not afraid of evolution and silhouette. But anyway, super cool guy, really big fan of what they're doing. And again, like this is amazing. I would put this on a mood board right away, just because I love how he takes traditional heritage driven fabrics like the Donegal tweed, the Prince of Wales plaid, and he translates it into streetwear. So super cool. You can peruse this article. I also included an article from Rob Report, and there's the Instagram as well for you, but really, really cool guy. My next link is about a new-ish documentary. I wasn't here last month, or I would have shared it, but you can stream this currently on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, but it's called Dreaming Walls. It's a documentary that has been worked on for years, and it is about the iconic Hotel Chelsea here in New York City. Which of course, anyone that you can think of has of course lived there at one time or another. What the documentary is about is the hotel was sold to a real estate developer for like $80 million in 2011. And at that time they closed it for renovations. So it's literally been renovated for a decade. It's opening, actually it's doing a soft opening as we speak. Probably next month I'll share some images from what the new hotel looks like. It's absolutely beautiful. But of course it's a really iconic place where everyone from writers to musicians to actors have lived over the decades. Of course, people have died there. Madonna lived there in the early 80s. She actually came back in 1992 and shot photographs for her iconic book, Sex, in room 822. I mean, go to the Wikipedia if you're not an American, you're not as familiar with the hotel, but it's really amazing. But what's interesting about this documentary is that it's about the people that have lived there for decades and decades and decades, and the city could not kick them out when the renovations of the hotel began. So they were allowed to remain in the building, some of them protected by state rent regulations. And so this documentary is really about these people that have lived there, some of them since they were really young. So I'll just play the trailer for you really quickly. It's just 2 minutes or so, but Martin Scorsese executive produced it. I did watch it a couple weekends ago and really enjoyed the stories about it. So I'll play this for you.
It's a fantasy land where people go to find pleasure, get away from reality.
It's a place that kind of asks you to be free.
I've always liked to be where the big guys were, you know. Dylan Thomas used to hang out on this very roof. And I'm sure like he threw up a couple, one too many rums or something off this roof.
So all the immortals of the 20th century at one time or another stayed at the Chelsea.
There are people here who really are the remnants of another time in New York.
I'm working on something.
Hi, John.
How you doing?
I'm here. How you feeling?
Terrible. This is where I lived for 16 years. They tried to move all the residents to the first floor because when the hotel opens, it's going to be very fancy and expensive. The hotel needs to be finished.
Yes, we are in the 9th year. Stop. Hey.
When was this ever not okay?
Janis Joplin may have put a toothbrush in here.
There's energy in the building.
You know you'll never leave.
There's a lot of ghosts going on around here.
The spirits or the energy that is here, they don't want it finished.
They trying to find their way out, but they can't find it.
The Chelsea is kind of like a grand old tree that's been chopped down. The roots are deep and there's life still coming from it.
Rage. Rage against the dying of life. We're not people, we are ghosts. Like as if you're in a dream.
So yeah, definitely check that out if you get a chance. It's streaming on many platforms. I forgot to say my favorite quote ever about the Chelsea was from Patti Smith, and she said the Chelsea was like a dollhouse in the Twilight Zone with 100 rooms, each a small universe. So I thought that was really cool. Okay, next is Anush. Hi, Anush.
Hi, everyone. My name's Anush. I'm the director of accessories here at SFS. And my first link today is a designer that I was introduced to over this past weekend in Paris at the Premier Class Trade Show by one of our Paris-based teammates, Julia. And Lou Chartrace is an accessories designer, and she was a participant in the French Fashion Festival Hyères. And her bags convert into pillows, and she told me that they were specifically for commuters. Everything's made in Portugal. They're beautifully crafted and it fits everything you need: a laptop, your documents, whatever you need for the day. And on the way back, it can flip into a pillow that you can put against your seat on the metro. And I also really loved these photographs. It kind of gave me a little bit of a Edward Hopper vibe, who's an American painter, and he has that kind of romantic loneliness. So it's kind of bringing that to the Paris metro, which I loved. And I think this is really interesting because it's this intersection between accessories and objects that we've been looking at, and even accessories and home objects. So it's this cool intersection of multifunctional pieces that I just really loved. And she was just a really cool young designer.
I love this. If only more people would travel with these instead of those silly pillows around their neck.
It's like a very chic version of that pillow,
Very
right?
chic. Yeah.
And my next designer is also a designer I met in Paris. And the founder is named Ousmane Mansour, and his brand is called Saplé. And he's taking this traditional Peshwari Chapal shoe silhouette that is really popular and historic in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and India. And it's typically worn by men. And he's reinvigorated it and changed the silhouette, added this really gorgeous crafted appeal and these refreshed embroidery techniques like the pulkari, which is this kind of floral embroidery, and the Baluchi Tanki embroidery, which you see there is the one with the mirror embellishments, which is often seen on garments. And he works with these local craftspeople in Pakistan to create these. And they were just so beautifully crafted. And I felt like the construction kind of speaks to this new loafer that we've been seeing, so many of these loafers, and they just really blew me away how well they were made, and his dedication to this craft. So that was something also really cool.
So beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So my third link today is another designer who's an Indian designer, and I saw his menswear collection at PT Woma, and I also had a chance to see his women's wear collection, which kind of fit into the same vein, and he's now showing in Milan. His name is Zaruv Kapoor, and he kind of talks about this rebel eclecticism, this like soul tech futurism that he's working with, and he describes his process as very spiritual, which I really loved. And he said, our storyline is always grounded by spiritual roots, mostly about the infinite capabilities of the human mind. For me, it is mostly about dressing the mind and the soul. So he's from India. He studied in Milan and ended up working for Etro for a few years, and then went back to India and had his own line. I think it's been about 8 years now. So I really love these takes on these colors, this like digital violet, this amping up this Indian craftsmanship, and doing it with these logos like Nico pointed out, and these really cool treatments and embroideries, and the prints are amazing. Just feels like very futuristic in a way, with being grounded in streetwear, which I thought was really cool. And again, it's so beautifully constructed. The fabrics, the techniques are just gorgeous in person.
Yeah, I have always loved his prints. It's interesting. I didn't even know that he was dipping his toe into women's wear. So thank you for teaching me that. But I love his menswear, obviously. But the prints, the logos, they're so good.
Yeah, and just speaking to the accessories a little bit, those little bags are new this year, and they're all made of upcycled leather. So he's really working with that sustainable and regenerative idea as well, which is really nice to see at such a high design level. I think the prints are designed in-house. Somebody asked that. So from my understanding, everything is designed in-house.
Really good. Yeah, if you're not on him, definitely check it out.
And my last link today is this woman named Hoda Katebi. And I just wanted to take a moment and speak to the women's rights that is going on, rights fight that is going on in Iran right now. And she is an Iranian American woman who is both an educator and a community activist, and definitely somebody worth following on social to have some insights about the ongoing protests. And one of the really important points she's making is the fact of intersectionality of what is happening in Iran. And basically that's pointing to what's happening for women's rights all over the world. So definitely worth following her and connecting it back to the garment industry. Hoda is also the founder of Blue Tin Production, which is a cut and sew apparel manufacturing and product development cooperative run by women of color. So they're really laying this groundwork for more ethical garment manufacturing. She's obviously a powerhouse doing so many things. So definitely someone worth following and hearing what she has to say.
This is great. We were talking internally, some of us at a meeting yesterday, just about how, many of us want to educate ourselves more about this, because it certainly is an important topic that's been gaining momentum over the last couple of weeks. But I love actually seeing, actually real people who are making a difference there. This is great. If you don't mind, I'll actually share on my own Instagram. I'll just go to my stories really quickly if I can. I found this photo this morning that I put here, right here, of these amazing schoolgirls in Iran. And I just love this reaction to the photo on the wall. And I actually found a huge conversation from a New York Times reporter about these girls, about this specific school on Twitter. And there are videos of them basically, I'm trying to think of a word, but basically they were pushing out the headmaster of the school. They were all in his face. They weren't afraid of him. They weren't intimidated. At a certain point, he turned around, walked out of the school, but it was so empowering. There were hundreds of girls just all in the same room together, not afraid of these people in authority. So
yeah, and I think that's something Hoda really points to, is that women have led so many of the revolutions in Iran. So these young girls definitely have some fire in them to stand up for their rights. So it's very inspiring.
Well said. We have so much to owe to women globally for being the first to actually have the guts to make these moves. So thanks for that. Thanks,
you.
Anuj. Great links. Wonderful. Nico.
Hey everyone, Nico here, strategist from the culture team. And today I wanted to show this new designer that I just discovered named Izzy Doo. We can actually start with the article right before this link, if
Sure.
that's okay, because they have some great photos in there. So Izzy Doo is a Canadian Chinese designer, born in China, raised in Vancouver, and she does these amazing pieces that make a really creative use of puffer and filling. And these pieces have these great prints that give them this Trompe l'oeil effect so that they feel kind of wet or metallic in a way. And once this loads, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the page doesn't look like it's loading. Do you want me to maybe Google image or
We could just go to the
go to the
Instagram, and maybe if you see
picture? I'll
any
see if
cool
it comes
stuff, you
up.
can
I'll
just
go back.
click through. Yeah. So like I said, she's Canadian and Chinese. So her use of puffer is really rooted in the fact that the places that she's from are cold. Like when it's winter, it's really cold. So she says that puffers like are her life basically. And she loves tech fabrics and tech wear. And I think it's really interesting to take use of these utilitarian elements like puffer and tech fabrics and make them very avant-garde and really just surreal.
Yeah, they're like little alien farms.
Yeah, and if you keep scrolling down, I'm not sure if we'll
I think I
see
have your
a
art
couple of
here.
fun.
I think it's up
Oh,
now. Here we go. Here we go.
awesome. Okay, yeah. So you see in this first picture, the use of the print to give it that like metallic look, I think was just a really creative way. And I love the juxtaposition that she uses in her campaigns where it's like being in this really natural setting
Mhm.
and her pieces make her models look like these aliens that have just landed from outer space. And you'll see a lot of these process images here showing the way that she works. She kind of has this non-traditional approach to designing by starting with these abstract shapes, and the designs just kind of come to life from there.
Wow. I don't know about you
So
guys, but there's nothing I love more than seeing mood boards and sketches and kind of behind the scenes of designers. I love to see like how they get there. These are awesome.
exactly. Yeah, so she actually only debuted her first runway show this year in 2022, and she'll be doing a full launch of her brand quite soon, but it's going to be a little bit more commercial when she officially launches. She just really wanted to go for it and, you know, stretch her creativity and kind of start with a bang.
Well, her aesthetic, her vibe is very on trend. So hopefully she'll have some good success.
Yeah, and that's all for me. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Nico. And last but not least, we're going to end today's show and tell with Danny. Hi, Danny.
Hi, everyone. I'm Danny. I'm the women's wear strategist here at FS. So we're going to pivot to some digital and social news. So my first link here is about a new stat that states that 40% of Gen Z uses TikTok as their main search engine and not Google. So this is, of course, because if you're on TikTok, you know the TikTok algorithm is highly personalized, slightly magical, maybe a little bit creepy, though the personalization allows for search results to be perfectly tailored to you. So it doesn't take too long to find what you're looking for. And within the article, a VP at Google was quoted saying, in our studies, something like almost 40% of young people, when they're looking for a place for lunch, for example, they don't go to Google Maps, they go to TikTok or Instagram. So this further validates some research on the stat that was conducted by a social media strategist, Adrienne Shears, who shared on a viral Twitter thread a video of her focus group with Gen Zers who said, when they use TikTok for search, they're often using it to find local restaurants or places to hang out, places with rooftops specifically, and to see videos of those places to decide whether they want to go or not. Which, Michael, then leads me into my next link, which was just announced last week that Google Maps is launching a vibe check feature, which is more of an immersive and visual experience where you can see kind of aerial views of places that you're searching for. So this is going to extend to what they're going to call live view, where you can utilize a visual flat map and virtually enter places on street level, like restaurants, and peek inside to see how busy it will be and just get the overall vibe. So I was thinking about this and these kind of connections between Google and TikTok. And from Google Maps perspective, I'm sure this new feature has long been in the works, though it seems to be in direct response to this stat that Gen Z uses TikTok for search. And if it is, I wouldn't be surprised, as it's very common for digital giants, as we know, to compete with each other like this. And for example, a recent example, it was announced last month that TikTok basically copied the new social media platform Be Real by releasing a feature to capture what users are doing in the moment with a front and back camera. So ultimately, I think the question to consider that I'll leave with all of us today is, would you rather search on TikTok to find a video posted at a new restaurant by a user yesterday that will pop up much quicker for you? Or would you rather virtually peek inside the restaurant to get a vibe check via Google Maps? I know personally speaking, I'm of the former, though who knows what Google has in store for the future to keep its competitive edge up. So we'll be tracking this as well, and we'll update as more updates come.
I love this. I've increasingly been using Instagram and TikTok for new recipes versus just finding static recipes. I like to see, people actually, working with it on social, and they always produce it in really clever ways. And then it's funny that you mentioned that about Google Maps, because anytime I go to a new place, I always go to Google Maps Street View, because I always want to see what's around it, even if I'm like looking at real estate just for fun. But if I'm going to a new place, staying at a new hotel, I always want to see like what's around it. So I always use it for that reason. So it's kind of similar.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for our show and tell. Again, we'll follow up with you later this week with the video recording of today's webinar, as well as the document of links. Please enjoy October, my favorite time of the year. Hopefully you love it as well. We will see you next for show and tell on Wednesday, November 2nd. Until then, have a wonderful month, and we'll see you then. Bye.